What we're going to do here is show how to make that small part. So I'm working on an Anthony Mont steam engine, and in that steam engine there was 6 of these tiny links, and I have discovered through the years an easy way to make these, and it's hard to make a small part like that with features on it if you cut the part out first. I don't cut the part out first. I keep it on the bar stock as long as possible, and then I cut it out. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Yeah. So I'm making the end piece, the center piece here, and the two bearing ends are already made. That's a very simple job. I don't have to explain how to do that. But this piece here is a little different. So I'm going to show you how to put the 2 radiuses on the bar before you cut it off. So I have 2 round features to make on that little part, and one of them is 3/16, and the other one is, this is 5/16. So first I'm going to put 2 parallels in the vise here, so I can put that piece of bar stock in there basically in the same position every time. All I'm doing is protruding a little bit out this end. It's no special dimension. And I've got a 3/16 end mill in the machine now, and I'm going to make that feature first. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the depth of this one is important. The depth of this one is not important, and you'll see why later. So this will be the first cut. So all I want is enough radius there to make a good soldering contact. So now I know the diameters of the 2 pieces, the 2 bearing ends. One is 5/16 and one is 3/16. And the distance between them on the jig that I made is 600 thousandths. So you don't have to do any math. You've done that one, and you're going to zero the machine out, and then you're going to crank it over 600 thousandths. And put the second end mill in. Oh, a little past it. Okay, there's 600 thousandths right there. Then put the second end mill in there. Anything here, all I'm going to do is come right down onto the second radius. And that should be just the right distance for the jig, and we'll check that out. So you can see the 2 features, the 2 cutouts in there. And I'm going to take it over to the height gauge, and I'm going to put 2 marks on there to use to put the angles on later. So it's pretty hard to show this on the video, but what I did is I scribed a line starting with the outside edge of that radius and the outside of this radius, and went straight across here. Now, of course, the piece is an angled piece, so what I'm going to do is eyeball and sand that back on a slight angle, and then I'll repeat the thing on the other side after I cut it off. Now I'm just going to rough cut it off here, leaving just a little bit so I don't have to sand a lot. So now I'm going to put this part in the hand vise and duplicate that angle that I put on the first side onto the second side. Yeah. And the angle starts right at the edge of that small radius and is probably about 3/32 out on this end. So instead of following the straight line, I leave it wider at this end. And that's it. So I've already made the jig, and you can see there's just 2 pins, and these are of equal height. Fortunately, both of these are the same thickness, in the print so I can make them be equal height. Of course, if they were different thicknesses, this ridge would have to be a little higher or a little lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a shim to put under that small part to solder it, and I'm going to make it out of aluminum so the solder won't stick to it. And my measurement is 680. So I'm going to set that up, put a mark on it. Then I'll bandsaw it off a little bit long and then mill it down to exactly what I want. What it's going to do is going to give me the exact height of this piece here before I solder it on there. And because it's made out of aluminum, it won't stick to the solder. So that should be just about perfect. So what I'm going to use here is this, I think it's 2% silver solder, and it's soft solder, but it's quite a bit stronger than the regular soft lead tin solder. And I've got to put a little acid on it because it's steel. So I'm going to just, a little acid on there, a little acid on there. And then I'm going to put a little flux, regular no corrode flux on there, because I find it seems to flow better with both. So I'm using both. Okay. Now I'm going to cut a little tiny piece of solder so I can control the amount of solder that's on there and place it on the joint. It doesn't have to be very big. As you can see, you're going to use tweezers. And hopefully they'll stay there when I heat it. Really have to set all this stuff up. Now heating it from the bottom, because the solder will flow to the heat side, so it should flow down to the bottom. Also, it doesn't blow the solder off when you heat it. If you heat it at the top, you might blow the little chip off of there. This one's a little wider. And I'll go to the other side just for a second. Make sure it flows down in there, and that's it. That should do it. If you can see it, that's the back side of the joint, and you can see the solder has flowed all the way through. I'm going to go cool this off, and then we'll wire brush it and finish it. So here it is in the rough before I round the edges of the joining part off. It is just about the right amount of solder on it. I can see that it's penetrated all the way through. I get a little line around there and a little line around here. And I'm going to round it off now. Now all I'm going to do is round the square edges with a piece of sandpaper. It only takes a second. And now I'll do the other side. This is real time. We're not cutting any of it out. I think this is 120 grit paper I'm using here. And there's the finished link. I ought to grind a little bit of that solder off there, a little too much solder, but there it is. Watching, I hope you learned something. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to my channel or give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Thank you.